After about a year, more than a dozen people have been arrested in connection to a deadly drive-by shooting.
31-year-old Princess Tolliver was killed. And NYS's Bob Hazen is live this morning at the Seminole County Jail. And Bob, this all happened in January of last year?
Yeah, the sheriff says it was a very complicated case involving a very dangerous street gang. Several of those gang members are now here at the Seminole County Jail. And while investigators haven't said who actually pulled the trigger, all of them are facing murder charges. Now that's dash cam video there as Seminole County deputies crashed into a car driven by one of the suspects right after the shooting in January of last year. 31-year-old Princess Tolliver was killed when the shooters opened fire on a van that she was riding in with friends on Reinhardt Road after leaving a rap concert at the Barn nightclub. The Seminole County Sheriff confirming they believe that shooting was carried out by members of a Sanford gang called On Top Forever, or OTF, and they believe those gang members were trying to kill a rapper named Jackboy who had been performing at the barn. They say Jackboy had been in a very public online feud with the famous South Florida rapper Kodak Black. He says there's no evidence that Kodak Black actually directed the shooting, but the OTF gang may have wanted to earn street cred by taking out Jackboy. Instead, the attack killed Tolliver and injured her friends, who were all innocent victims, and it took more than a year, but now 13 people are facing charges.
This beautiful influencer from the heart of Tallahassee, Florida, went on a hangout with her close friends, only to be shot in the head by a gang of people who couldn't settle their differences among themselves. Princess Aura Tolliver, a 31-year-old woman with a radiant smile, who had no idea that accepting an invitation to a concert would be her final decision. January 16, 2023. Princess and her girlfriends had just left the barn in Sanford at 2 a.m. after the night party, laughing about the Jackboy performance they'd just witnessed. The transport van moved through the streets, headlights illuminating the path ahead. 10 minutes later, everything changed. What happened at the intersection of County Road 46A and Reinhardt Road wasn't random. It wasn't a robbery gone wrong. It wasn't a case of mistaken identity, at least not in the way you might think. The bullets that tore through that van were meant for someone else entirely, someone famous, someone connected to a world Princess only observed from a distance. But why would members of a notorious gang called On Top Forever target a vehicle full of innocent women? What could possibly drive young men to open fire on strangers in the dead of night? The answer lies in a tangled web of rap industry beef, social media warfare, and the desperate desire for street credibility, a deadly combination that turned Princess Tolliver into collateral damage in a battle she never even knew was being fought. This is Crazy Dark Files. We have more crazy cases to bring to light. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an exposed case. Share your thoughts in the comments, because what I'm about to reveal about Princess Tolliver's final hours will make you question everything you thought you knew about the dark side of fame. Before her name was linked to a high-profile shooting, Princess Aura Tolliver was simply a 31-year-old woman building her life in Tallahassee, Florida. Born and raised in the state capital, Princess was known for her warm personality and dedication to her family. At the center of Princess' world were her three sisters. The Tolliver girls shared an uncommonly close bond, the kind that turned sisters into best friends. They celebrated each other's victories, supported each other through challenges, and created the kind of family unit that others admired. Princess, in particular, was known for going out of her way to help her siblings whenever they needed her. She was a very outgoing young lady, a very sweet person, lovable person. Her grandmother, Barbara Flynn Tolliver, told reporters in the days following the tragedy. The pain evident in her voice, she added, she was a very hard worker. She would do anything to help her other sisters. They were very, very close. Barbara never imagined she would speak about her granddaughter in the past tense. Never dreamed something like this would happen to one of my grandchildren, she told local news station. You could tell how painful it was to her. Princess was a proud graduate of Leon High School, one of Tallahassee's oldest educational institutions. After completing her education, she found her professional home at Florida State University, where she built a reputation as a reliable and dedicated employee. Her career at Florida State University began in November 2019, when she was hired as a part-time security aide. Her work ethic and positive attitude didn't go unnoticed. 3 years later, she transitioned to a new role as a parking visitor attendant for the university. Though not glamorous, her position put her in contact with countless students, faculty members, and visitors, many of whom would later remember her friendly smile and helpful nature. Outside of work, Princess embraced life with enthusiasm. She enjoyed music, spending time with friends, and occasionally traveling to experience new places and events. Her social media presence showed a young woman who loved fashion, appreciated beauty, and valued experiences over material things. That love of experiences is what ultimately brought Princess to Sanford that January weekend in 2023. When friends suggested making the trip to see Jackboy perform at the barn, Princess saw it as an opportunity for a fun weekend getaway, a chance to enjoy live music, dance with friends, and create memories. The roughly 4-hour drive from Tallahassee to the Orlando area was nothing unusual for someone with Princess's adventurous spirit. She packed a weekend bag, said goodbye to her family, and headed out with friends, expecting nothing more than a good time and stories to share when she returned home. No one could have predicted that this ordinary weekend trip would place Princess in the crosshairs of a conflict that had nothing to do with her. No one imagined she wouldn't make the return journey to Tallahassee. January 15, 2023. A Sunday night in Sanford, Florida. The barn, a popular local venue known for hosting concerts and events, was preparing for a performance that would draw hundreds of fans from across the state. The headliner, Jackboy, a rising star in the rap scene whose raw lyrics and authentic style had earned him a dedicated following. The barn has long been a destination for music lovers seeking live performances outside the busier Orlando club scene. On this particular night, the parking lot filled quickly as fans arrived, eager to secure good spots inside. Princess Tolliver and her friends were among those fans. They had made the journey from Tallahassee specifically for this show, part of a weekend getaway that combined friendship, music, and escape from everyday routines. This was simply another adventure to add to her collection of experiences, a chance to see a performer she enjoyed in a live setting. Inside the barn, people anticipated awesome performances. The venue grew increasingly packed as the night progressed, bodies pressed together in the universal communion of live music. When Jackboy finally took the stage, the crowd erupted. His energy was infectious as he moved across the stage, delivering verses that had fans rapping along word for word. The performance featured tracks from his latest projects. Each song met with enthusiastic response from the audience. Princess and her friends were fully immersed in the experience, dancing and singing along with hundreds of other fans. What none of them knew, what they couldn't have known, was that this concert was happening against the backdrop of a simmering feud. Jackboy, once a close associate of fellow Florida rapper Kodak Black, had become entangled in a bitter public dispute with his former friend. Their conflict had played out across social media platforms and in the courts, creating ripples throughout the Florida rap scene and beyond. This beef wasn't just entertainment industry drama. It had created real tensions, particularly among young gang members who aligned themselves with either artist. In Sanford, members of a local gang called On Top Forever, a subset of the national Gangsters Murder Crip street gang, had taken a particular interest in the conflict. They saw an opportunity to make a name for themselves by inserting themselves into this high-profile dispute. As Jackboy's performance reached its conclusion around 2 a.m. on Monday, January 16, the crowd began the slow process of filtering out of the venue. The parking lot became a maze of vehicles and pedestrians, everyone navigating the post-concert chaos. Princess and her 5 friends made their way to their transport van, still riding the high of the performance, likely discussing favorite moments and sharing videos they'd captured. Jackboy and his entourage also prepared to depart. Security protocols for performers typically include careful exit strategies, especially when large crowds are involved. For Jackboy, this meant a convoy of vehicles, a standard practice designed to ensure the artist's safety while traveling between venues or to their next destination. As the clock ticked past 2:15 a.m., Both groups, Princess and her friends in their van and Jackboy's entourage in their separate vehicles, pulled out of the barn's parking lot. The convoy headed southeast toward Orlando. Jackboy's destination was reportedly Orlando, about 25 miles away, where he may have had accommodations or another engagement. The transport van carrying Princess and her friends followed a similar route, merging into the late-night traffic on local roads. The women were likely relaxing, perhaps planning their next day's activities or simply enjoying the post-concert come-down that follows the adrenaline of a live show. What they couldn't see, what no one could see, was that they were being watched. Somewhere in the darkness, members of the OTF gang had identified the convoy leaving the barn. They had made a decision that would forever alter multiple lives. They believed Jackboy was traveling in one of those vehicles, and they had decided this was their moment to act. As the convoy approached the intersection of County Road 46A and Reinhardt Road, less than 20 miles from downtown Orlando, the vehicles slowed for a traffic signal. It was approximately 2:20 a.m., a quiet hour when most of Sanford's residents were asleep in their beds. For Princess Tolliver and her friends, the next few minutes would transform what had been a joyful night into an unimaginable nightmare. The digital clock on the dashboard read 2:20 a.m. as the transport van carrying Princess Tolliver and her 5 friends came to a stop at the intersection of County Road 46A and Reinhardt Road. The women inside were likely still buzzing from the concert, their conversations punctuated by laughter and music playing through the van's speakers. Outside, the Florida night was warm even in January, the streets largely empty at this hour. What happened next would unfold with terrifying speed. A 4-door vehicle suddenly appeared alongside the transport van. Without warning or provocation, multiple muzzle flashes lit up the darkness as gunmen opened fire on the van. The sound of gunshots shattered the night, a rapid succession of loud cracks that echoed through the intersection. Inside the van, confusion turned to terror in an instant. The women screamed as bullets punched through metal and glass, striking bodies and seats indiscriminately. Princess and 5 other women were hit in the barrage. Some were struck multiple times as they desperately tried to take cover on the floor of the vehicle. Princess Tolliver, seated in a position that left her particularly vulnerable, was struck in the head by one of the bullets. The injury was catastrophic and immediate. While her friends suffered various wounds, Prince's injury was the most severe, a direct hit that would prove fatal. The driver of the van, despite the chaos and danger, managed to accelerate away from the intersection, desperately trying to escape the gunfire and reach safety. Blood soaked the seats and floor as the injured women cried out in pain and fear, trying to help each other while still under threat. What the shooters didn't know, or perhaps didn't care about, was that their target wasn't even in the vehicle they attacked. Jackboy was traveling in a different vehicle in the convoy. The OTF gang members had fired upon the wrong car, hitting 6 innocent women who had no connection to the rap feud beyond attending a concert. By extraordinary coincidence, deputies from the Seminole County Sheriff's Office were in the vicinity when the shooting occurred. They heard the gunshots and immediately responded, arriving at the scene within minutes. What they found was a nightmarish tableau. The bullet-riddled van had managed to stop a short distance from the intersection, its occupants bleeding and in desperate need of medical attention. The deputies radioed for emergency medical services while beginning life-saving measures for the victims. They applied pressure to wounds, assessed injuries, and tried to keep the women stable until ambulances could arrive. For Princess, whose head wound was clearly life-threatening, they worked frantically, knowing that every second counted. Simultaneously, other deputies began pursuing the shooter's vehicle, which had fled the scene immediately after the attack. A description of the car was quickly broadcast to all law enforcement in the area, setting off an urgent manhunt across Seminole County. In a stroke of investigative fortune, one suspect was stopped by law enforcement shortly after the shooting. Dashcam footage captured this traffic stop, a crucial piece of evidence that would later help build the case. During the stop, officers discovered ammunition in the suspect's car that matched shell casings found at the shooting scene, creating an immediate link between the vehicle and the crime. Meanwhile, ambulances raced Princess and the other victims to nearby hospitals. Emergency room teams were mobilized, trauma surgeons called in, and operating rooms prepared. The medical professionals worked tirelessly, but for Princess Tolliver, the injury was simply too severe. Despite all efforts to save her, the 31-year-old woman from Tallahassee succumbed to her injuries. 5 other women survived their wounds, though some faced lengthy recoveries and lasting physical and psychological trauma. They later became key witnesses, helping investigators piece together the events of that night and identify those responsible. As dawn broke over Seminole County on January 16, 2023, the full horror of what had occurred began to emerge. A young woman was dead, 5 others were injured, and it had all happened because of a rap feud that none of the victims had any part in. News of the shooting spread quickly through local media, then national outlets. The innocent concert-goers gunned down because gang members wanted to make a name for themselves in a celebrity dispute. Princess Tolliver became the face of a tragedy that highlighted the real-world consequences of entertainment industry conflicts. Back in Tallahassee, Prince's family received the call that no family should ever have to receive. Their daughter, sister, granddaughter would not be coming home, not because of anything she had done, but because she happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, caught in the crossfire of a conflict that had nothing to do with her. What state are you watching from? Has gang violence affected your community? Share your experiences in the comments below, because the reality is that what happened to Princess Tolliver could happen anywhere, that feuds and firearms intersect with innocent
While these
lives.
arrests do not
The
bring your
Seminole
daughter
County
back,
Sheriff's Office
I
launched a
hope that you're able
massive
to find some
investigation
solace
within
in knowing that
hours
the
of the
suspect's
shooting.
fate are now
Sheriff
in the
Dennis
hands
Lemma
of the
personally
justice.
took charge, recognizing the high-profile nature of the case and the public safety threat posed by the perpetrators still at large. A dedicated team of detectives was assembled, with resources from multiple departments channeled into solving Princess Tolliver's murder. Detectives conducted initial interviews with the surviving victims as soon as their medical conditions allowed. These women provided crucial details about the attack, the appearance of the shooter's vehicle, the direction of gunfire, and the sequence of events leading up to the ambush. Their testimonies helped investigators establish a preliminary timeline and target profile. The early break in the case came from that fortuitous traffic stop captured on dashcam footage. Just after the shooting, deputies had stopped a suspect vehicle. During the stop, they discovered ammunition that appeared identical to the shell casings recovered at the scene. This physical evidence created an immediate link between the stopped vehicle and the crime, giving investigators their first solid lead. Ballistics experts at the crime lab confirmed what deputies suspected. The ammunition found in the suspect's car matched the shell casings from the shooting scene. This wasn't just similar ammunition, it was from the same manufacturer and lot number, creating a forensic connection that would be difficult to explain away. As detectives dug deeper, they realized something more. The suspect had connections to a local criminal street gang called On Top Forever, or OTF, a subset of the National Gangsters Murder Crips street gang. This discovery shifted the investigation's focus as detectives began mapping the gang's structure, membership, and recent activities. Through confidential informants, social media analysis, and traditional police work, investigators uncovered the gang's motive. Sheriff Lemma explained, the likely motive for the incident stemmed from a high-profile, very public dispute on social media and in the court system, involving Jackboy and known associate of the shooters, another rap artist, Bill Capri, known by the stage name Kodak Black. This revelation was the key that unlocked the case. OTF members aligned with Kodak Black in his feud with Jackboy had seen the concert as an opportunity to target Jackboy. As Sheriff Lemma put it, they took this as an opportunity to make a name for themselves working in this space. The gang members had mistakenly believed Jackboy was in the transport van carrying Princess and her friends. What made the case particularly complex was the number of individuals involved. This wasn't the act of a lone gunman, but a coordinated attack involving multiple gang members. Investigators had to identify each participant, determine their specific role in the shooting, and gather evidence sufficient for prosecution. Search warrants were executed at multiple locations across Seminole County. These raids yielded additional firearms, ammunition, cell phones, and other evidence linking OTF members to the shooting. Digital forensics experts analyzed seized phones and computers, uncovering text messages, social media posts, and location data that further solidified the case. Witness interviews expanded beyond the immediate victims to include concert attendees, venue staff, and others who might have observed suspicious activity before or after the shooting. Each statement added another piece to the puzzle, helping investigators construct a comprehensive picture of the events of January 16, 2023. As weeks turned into months, the Seminole County Sheriff's Office built a case that would ultimately lead to multiple arrests and charges. Their methodical approach ensured that those responsible for Princess Tolliver's death would face justice. Now, let's quickly look into the relationship breakdown between two Florida rap artists that began years before that fatal night in Sanford. Kodak Black, born Bill Capri, and Jackboy, born Pierre Delintz, were once inseparable. More than just collaborators, they were like brothers. Kodak Black, the more established artist, had signed Jackboy to his Sniper Gang label around 2016. Jackboy had even tattooed Sniper Gang on his forehead, demonstrating his loyalty to Kodak's brand. The two Pompano Beach natives collaborated on multiple tracks, with Kodak serving as a mentor to the younger artist. Their chemistry was evident in songs like G to the A and Grimace, which garnered millions of views on YouTube. But by 2021, their relationship had deteriorated dramatically. The exact catalyst for their falling out remains somewhat unclear, but money and business disagreements appear to have been at the center. When Kodak Black was released from prison in January 2021 after receiving a pardon from then-President Donald Trump, the relationship was already strained. What might have remained a private disagreement exploded into the public sphere through social media. In June 2021, Kodak took to Instagram Live to air his grievances, accusing Jackboy of being ungrateful and disloyal. He claimed Jackboy owed him money and had turned his back on him while he was incarcerated. Jackboy responded with his own social media posts, defending himself and suggesting that Kodak was the one being unreasonable. He implied that Kodak was trying to take advantage of him financially and control his career. The back and forth continued for months, with both artists releasing songs that contained thinly veiled disses aimed at each other. The dispute escalated beyond social media when it entered the court system. Legal battles over contract terms, royalties, and intellectual property further entrenched both sides in their positions. What had started as a personal disagreement between friends had transformed into a full-blown public feud with legal ramifications. Fans took sides, other artists weighed in. The beef became a major talking point in hip-hop circles, particularly in Florida, where both artists had strong followings. Local news outlets covered the dispute, amplifying its reach beyond music fans to the general public. This is where the OTF gang enters the picture. On Top Forever, a Sanford-based subset of the gangsters' murder Crips, saw an opportunity in this high-profile conflict. For young gang members seeking notoriety, aligning themselves with a famous rapper in a public dispute offered a path to recognition. If they could strike a blow against Jackboy on behalf of Kodak Black, they might gain attention, respect, and potentially even favor from Kodak's camp. In the world of street gangs, such recognition can translate to power, influence, and economic opportunity. When Jackboy announced his performance at the barn in Sanford, OTF territory, gang members saw their chance. They monitored social media, tracked the concert date, and developed a plan to target the rapper. Their goal wasn't just to intimidate, but to commit violence that would make headlines and establish their reputation. What they failed to consider, or perhaps simply didn't care about, were the innocent lives that would be affected by their actions. Princess Tolliver and her friends had no connection to either rapper or the feud. They were simply fans who enjoyed music and wanted a night out. Yet, they became the victims of violence intended for someone else entirely. This pattern of celebrity conflicts spilling over into real-world violence isn't unique to this case. Across the country, disputes between musicians, particularly in the rap industry, have led to shootings, assaults, and deaths. Often the artists themselves aren't directly involved in the violence. Instead, it's carried out by associates, fans, or others seeking to align themselves with one side of a conflict. The tragedy of Princess Tolliver's death illustrates the dangerous ripple effects of public feuds. Words exchanged on Instagram, diss tracks released on streaming platforms, and legal filings in courtrooms created waves that ultimately crashed into the life of a woman who simply wanted to enjoy a concert with her friends. In this case, a social media beef between two former friends resulted in a 31-year-old woman being shot in the head at 2:30 in the morning, 250 miles from her home, by people she had never met over a conflict she had no part in. The investigation into Princess Tolliver's murder culminated in one of the largest coordinated arrest operations in Seminole County history. Sheriff Dennis Lemma announced that 13 individuals, all members of the OTF gang, had been taken into custody and charged in connection with the shooting. The charges were extensive and severe: first-degree murder, attempted murder, conspiracy, and various gang enhancements that would significantly increase potential sentences. Prosecutors built their case methodically, using the physical evidence, witness testimonies, digital forensics, and confessions obtained during interrogations. These arrests do not bring your daughter back, Sheriff Lemma said directly to Princess' family during the press conference announcing the arrests. I hope you can find solace in knowing the suspect's fate are now in the hands of the justice system. Despite the success in apprehending 13 suspects, one key figure remained at large: Trayvon Law. Identified as a primary suspect in the shooting, Law was still wanted for first-degree murder. Law enforcement officials described him as extremely dangerous and continued their efforts to locate and apprehend him, distributing his photo to media outlets and requesting public assistance in tracking him down.
While these arrests do not bring your daughter back, I hope that you're able to find some solace in knowing that the suspect's fate are now in the hands of the justice system.
And the sheriff says they are still looking for one suspect, Trayvon Law. They say he is extremely dangerous. They're asking anyone who knows where Law could be to contact them or call Crime Line, where you can leave those tips anonymously.
The arrests sent shockwaves through the OTF gang and the broader criminal community in Central Florida. The swift and comprehensive response from law enforcement demonstrated that gang violence would be met with the full force of the justice system. Sheriff Lemma emphasized that these arrests would make the community safer, disrupting the operations of a violent criminal organization. For Princess Tolliver's family, the arrests brought a measure of relief, though nothing could fill the void left by her absence. They released a powerful letter of gratitude following the announcement of the arrests. The intentional, collaborative efforts and diligent pursuit of justice in Princess's death are proof that the good can conquer the evil. Through the success of this investigation, hundreds if not thousands of lives have been protected, the letter read in part. The family's words highlighted an important aspect of the case, that bringing Princess's killers to justice wasn't just about one family's closure, but about protecting countless other potential victims from similar violence in the future. The community response to the arrests was equally significant. Vigils were held for Princess, not only in her hometown of Tallahassee but also in Sanford, where residents wanted to show that the actions of the OTF gang didn't represent their community values. Local organizations focused on reducing gang violence saw increased support and attention. As the legal process moved forward, Princess' family attended court hearings, facing the accused killers with dignity and resolve. They were determined that Princess would not be forgotten and that her death would not be in vain. Their presence in the courtroom served as a powerful reminder of the human cost of senseless violence. The pursuit of justice for Princess Tolliver demonstrated that while the legal system cannot undo tragedy, it can hold accountable those responsible and perhaps prevent future tragedies by removing dangerous individuals from society. Princess Tolliver's death highlights a disturbing pattern that extends far beyond this single case. Across America, innocent bystanders increasingly find themselves caught in the crossfire of conflicts involving celebrities, particularly in the music industry. These victims, people who have no personal connection to the feuds, pay the ultimate price for disputes that begin on social media platforms and in recording studios. The phenomenon has become so common that law enforcement agencies in major cities now monitor social media beefs between high-profile artists, anticipating potential violence when these artists or their associates visit their jurisdictions. What begins as entertainment for fans, watching artists trade barbs online, can escalate into real-world violence, with devastating consequences. Social media has fundamentally changed how these conflicts develop and spread. Before platforms like Instagram and Twitter, disputes between artists might have been confined to diss tracks or industry gossip. Today, these platforms amplify disagreements, broadcasting them to millions of followers in real time. The immediate, unfiltered nature of social media removes the cooling-off period that might otherwise allow tensions to dissipate. For gang members and others seeking notoriety, these public feuds present opportunities to align themselves with famous figures by acting as unofficial enforcers. The OTF gang saw attacking Jackboy as a way to gain recognition in Kodak Black's circle, a calculated move to elevate their status through violence. This raises serious questions about the responsibility of public figures. While artists like Kodak Black and Jackboy may not have directly encouraged violence, their public dispute created conditions that made violence more likely. When artists with large followings engage in heated conflicts, they must consider how their words might be interpreted by those looking for excuses to commit violence. For fans, awareness is key. Understanding that attending events featuring artists involved in public feuds may carry additional risks allows individuals to make informed decisions. Being alert to surroundings when leaving venues and traveling in groups can provide additional safety. Princess Tolliver's story serves as a stark reminder that what some view as entertainment, rap beefs, social media drama, celebrity conflicts, can have life or death consequences for completely uninvolved individuals. Her death wasn't random. It was the predictable outcome of a culture that glorifies conflicts and fails to consider how words can incite actions. Princess Aura Tolliver should be alive today. She should be working at Florida State University, spending time with her 3 sisters, making her grandmother proud. Instead, her life was cut short at 31 because she attended a concert on the wrong night, in the wrong place, amid a conflict that had nothing to do with her. Her legacy now extends beyond her personal achievements and the love of her family. Princess has become a symbol of the innocent lives lost to senseless violence, a reminder that bullets fired in anger rarely find only their intended targets. Her story has sparked conversations about concert security, gang violence, and the real-world consequences of celebrity feuds. For Princess's family, the pain continues long after the news cameras have moved on to other stories. Holidays, birthdays, and ordinary Tuesdays all carry the weight of her absence. The arrests and prosecutions of those responsible provide a measure of justice, but they cannot fill the void left by her death. The Tolliver family has shown remarkable courage in the face of unimaginable loss. Their letter following the arrests speaks to their character and their hope that Princess's death might somehow prevent future tragedies. Through the success of this investigation, hundreds, if not thousands, of lives have been protected. In their darkest hour, they thought of others who might be spared similar pain. The senselessness of Princess's death is perhaps its most disturbing aspect. She died not because of anything she did, but because young men seeking notoriety decided to open fire on a van they thought contained someone else. The distance between the initial Instagram posts that fueled the Kodak Black Jackboy feud and the bullet that took Princess's life seems vast, yet one led directly to the other. As we reflect on Princess Tolliver's story, we must consider our own role in celebrity culture. When we engage with, share, and amplify feuds between public figures, do we consider the potential real-world consequences? When we treat conflicts as entertainment, are we inadvertently contributing to conditions that make violence more likely? Princess deserved to live a full life. She deserved to return home from that concert with nothing more than memories and perhaps some social media posts to share. Instead, her story became a cautionary tale about how quickly joy can turn to tragedy when violence enters the equation. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe to Crazy Dark Files for more in-depth true crime cases that matter. By understanding these tragedies, perhaps we can work together to prevent future ones. Princess Tolliver's memory deserves nothing less.